Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Magic. I am Gene FitzMagic, joined as always by my late night compañero, Piano Rob. What's up, my man?
Not much, Gene. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We have an awesome comic in the house tonight. Ben Gleib, one of my most favorite comics on the planet right now. Pound for pound might be one of the funniest guys doing it right now. So excited to have him in the house. Just released recently a comedy special, The Mad King. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you guys go check it out. Podcast is also back. So we have a lot to talk about with him. Just a lot of stuff is going on right now for Ben. So
yeah,
can't wait to chat with him a little bit. How are you doing, my man? How's everything been?
I got no complaints. You know, it's funny. I mean, everybody knows by now that we record these. You know, we record the season earlier than they come out. So I'm in horror movie mode now. That's what we've been doing.
Yes, I know you got that calendar, right? Where the calendar, like
it's a scratch off. It's a scratch off from it was from Etsy or something. And you watch the movie and you scratch it off, and then there's like a colored scene from the movie. It's cool.
That's nice, man. Yeah, I used to actually have the same thing. It was an AFI greatest 100 films of all time type thing.
You know what? It's probably the same company because they have 100 greatest films of all time one too. So
there you go. So yeah, I know you and Ali always have a good time with the horror, the HHNs and all that stuff. So
we did the original Phantom of the Opera, Gene, from like 1925.
Really? I didn't even.
Yeah.
Wow. Was it any good? I never seen it.
I loved it. I mean, you just know what you're going. Like, there's no spoken word. It's like where they show
that
the whole
silent
thing
film.
The whole thing has just an organ behind it. And then between the scenes, like they put the words up. Like I actually made the joke with Ali. It would be funny to go scene by scene and just redo the whole dialogue and make our whole other story.
I love it. Well, guys, we're gonna take a short commercial break. When we come back, Ben Gleib will be in the house.
Do you hate yourself and your family, but hate haircuts even more? Introducing the Flowbee Precision Haircutting System. Get that freshly sucked hair you've always dreamed of without leaving the house. You can suck your whole family, mom, sister, and watch Uncle Steve suck himself. Looking good, Steve. The Flowbee Precision Home Haircutting System. We suck, so you don't have to.
Guys, go get a Flowbee. You'll never have to leave the house again for a haircut. I don't even know if the Flowbee's even real. I just love watching that commercial.
I think it
is. Guys, please put your hands together for funny man, comedian Ben Gleib.
Getting the big sponsors there.
We only take the big guys. You know, it's Ford came to us. We like Ford. We don't really care about cars. Get us Flowbee, and our producer went out and got us Flowbee. So
the Ford Flowbee would be great.
Amazing.
Yeah,
very
put your hair while you're driving.
Yes. Listen, 2-in-1. It never hurts. It never hurts, especially if you're in a convertible. If you want your hair to be ruined forever, try the Flowbee convertible. Flowbee, no top. Your hairs go everywhere. Let the freeway know you care.
It would be great if you have like a Tesla, right? You don't have to worry. You just have the haircut, like while with the self-driving Tesla, it would work, right? Although I in your recent stand-up special, we find that sometimes that it doesn't work. The self-driving thing as you have mentioned once before. First of all, before we even start though, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you very much. Excited about that myself.
You know what? Marriage is not that bad. I've been married for about long enough, and it's not bad, man. You'll like.
Well, that's exactly my fear. As you spoke, I talked to my first special about exactly the way you just responded right there. The best you just gave to a newly engaged man was, "It's not that bad. I've been married long enough." So that's not good.
It's like, listen, at the end of the day, is it love or is it Stockholm syndrome? I don't really know, but I'm dealing with it. And
I hear that. Yeah, like I'll leave sometimes the house for like an hour and she'll text me, or I'll text her, "I miss you." What is that? I don't miss her. It's been an hour.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You miss her.
Yes, that's
right. You're right.
Yeah. So you know what? Let's start from the beginning, man. Were you always funny? Like, were you the class clown growing up, or was it something that you kind of just kept to yourself until you finally made it a career?
No, I was always funny. I couldn't keep it in, but I was not the class clown. Any good comedian will tell you I was the class comedian who made fun of the class clown. The class clown was always making an idiot of himself in front of everybody, and I was the one making fun of that guy.
See, that's smart.
And that's the thing too. I feel like with your comedy is it's not slapstick. It's not like cheat. It's smart comedy. Like it's a little bit more. You got to think a little bit. You talk about a lot of world topics, a lot of political satire, a lot of stuff like that. So I think it's definitely not clownish. It's definitely more of a smart brand of comedy, which I really appreciate it. When did you realize you wanted to get into this line of work? Was it like, hey, I'm
comedy or political commentary?
Well, let's start with the comedy first, and then how it delved into your political commentary.
Sure. So and this special is a weird mix because the Mad King is a mixture of both political and social commentary, and also the most personal stories and personally revealing vulnerable things I've ever talked about too in the same time. So I tried to bring it to the next level on all of that. But when did I get started doing it, you asked me?
Well, when did you realize, okay, this is something that I want to try to develop into a career? Like, what got you to go on stage?
I knew that since age 5 or 6. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I was going to do it. And it was just a matter of time, but I had a pretty severe speech problem growing up, so I couldn't even talk publicly very well, let alone perform. So I had some hurdles to figure out first. I didn't know my timeline, but then I started doing a radio show at the very end of high school with friends co-hosting, and they would kind of fill in the gaps when I couldn't speak. And then in college, I got a late night talk show, and I would have my speech problem on the air, but just kind of pushed through it. And at the end of my freshman year, I had this big live talk show out in the quad, the live Gleib show, and it went really well. It was almost rained out, and it didn't get rained out, and we didn't have to pull all the equipment in. I was running like 300-foot cables down downside of the res hall to be able to feed it into our TV station with a live outdoor crowd, and I set it up so it was airing to like 7 cable systems across San Diego. And that night I decided that I'm going to do this for a living because it went so well, and I knew it was something unique that I was pulling off.
Hell yeah.
Well, what's it like when you're on stage, especially as a young comedian? What's it like when you know you're hitting the crowd and you got that laugh coming? What is that? What's that adrenaline feel like?
It's incredible. It's the best feeling in the world when you're crushing a crowd and they're just riding your every word, and you're creating a wave of laughter just through your intentions. Like, I know I can keep that going almost as long as I'd like them to. It's incredible. It feels like, I mean, it's better than the adrenaline of any roller coaster. It's like a roller coaster without the negative pit in your stomach. It's just like you're just flying high. It's like it's your birthday party and you're walking through. It's like, I don't know. It's like the beginning of Goodfellas or something. You're walking through and it's just your world, and it feels really great. The energy is insane. There's nothing like it, and it's just you're just bringing pure happiness to a room full of people repeatedly, over and over and over again. It feels very, very cool. Very, very. You just get more pumped up from that than pretty much anything.
That's awesome. You got something, Rob? Rob's. Oh, there you go. You gonna say something? Can Rob hear me? I
guess Rob cannot hear you.
Sorry, I can hear you now. It was go ahead.
No, I thought you could. I was like, is it me or is it Rob? I thought you were gonna say something before. That's why.
You know what? The internet is nutty today because we're still doing. You know what I was actually thinking when you were. I recently watched a Woodstock '99 because why not? I needed to watch it, and you get to see the negative sides of a mob mentality. But I think a good comedy show, a good concert, a good whatever, it's mob mentality in a positive way. It's everybody sharing that same emotion and same whatever. And when somebody has the crowd in the palm of their hands, that's just magical like that when you can ride that wave out.
It is totally magical. I mean, there's no way to explain the feeling unless you experience it yourself. I mean, you get a sense of what it's like being in the audience. You're laughing your ass off for an hour. You're part of that experience for sure, but to be the one creating and conducting it is really cool. It's like probably as close as we come to actual sorcery or wizardry. I mean, it really is magic. Yeah. It's like you're creating a physical effect in people that they can't control, and it's all for good. So I'm a good witch, basically.
I love it. So who were some of the comedians that inspired you from an early age? Obviously, you were well into comedy from day one. Who were some of the comedians that you looked at and be like, I love what they do. I want to be a comedian like them. Like, who was it out there that stood out to you growing up?
I mean, some of the people that I loved and enjoyed watching so much were, I loved Brian Regan, still do. I love Jerry Seinfeld. I love Gary Shandling. Some of Howie Mandel's improvisational style and Paula Poundstone's improvisational style was killer. I loved lots of the greats. I'd watch Dennis Miller. I'd watch, but some of my favorites beyond that though was Chris Rock, and then Chappelle became one of them, and then just the number one of all time for me was George Carlin. He's the reason that I'm a comedian. My family loved him. My brother found a tape, the Playing with Your Head audio cassette, and he and I would listen to it repeatedly on a little boom box in our room, and we just listened to it on loop the entire our entire childhood. Almost I had that thing memorized, and just I love the way that he would just take his voice to next levels, and he would talk about important things, but also be very silly. I try to replicate that as best as I can. That dual track focus, because that's always been where my mind has been. So yeah, those are the guys that have influenced me. And then as far as like a host, it was Johnny Carson. As far as an actor, it was Chevy Chase, and those kind of all, became my influences, I guess, and a big part of my comedic personality.
Now, are you the funny one of the family, or like like you were saying, you and your brother would listen to these tapes? Was your brother funny too? Like, was your father a funny guy? Like, was there somewhere else that comedy came from that was kind of in your blood, or were you kind of like the black sheep in that? Not the black sheep of the family, but the outlier in the family as far as the comedy.
I would say I'm probably the funniest one in my family. I hope that's true, but they all have their own funny parts. My brother's pretty quiet, but then comes out with some pretty funny, sardonic comedy once in a while. My mom is a very genuine person, but also very, very sarcastic, and always has great comedy that way. But the funniest one, like outwardly, is probably my dad. Still to this day, he just loves to entertain people. He like kind of craves it, and so he's got a million dad jokes a minute, and he's always just willing to put his whole personality on the line and out there to get a laugh. He's probably even less censored than I am. So, I do this virtual show, Gleib Off the Top, crowd work and improvised madness at Nowhere Comedy. And I've had a lot of, I do it solo usually, but I have a lot of big celebrity comedy guests who are good at improv join me sometimes on it, like Colin Mockery, Jamie Kennedy, Marilyn Rice Cub, Justine Marino, Leah Lamar, Adam Ray. They've all come and joined me, Proops. But my dad has now joined me twice, and he improvises for 2 hours while stoned and crushes it.
That's great.
So
all right, Mr. Gleib.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Nice. So what's some of your going on stage? Do you have any superstitions? What do you to prep to get on stage, for whether it be just a big comedy special you're doing, or even you're just hitting a club? What's some of your superstitions before getting on stage, or your preparations at least?
I used to have some superstition where I would, and also just good with energy, I would eat pineapple chunks from a can, because that's what Letterman used to do. And I just liked the vibe of that, but I gave that up a long time ago. I don't do that anymore. I don't really have any superstitions. I don't really even need much in the way of prep other than just reviewing my notes. I just go through my notes apps and remind myself of kind of what some of the key punchlines are, or the new lines I'm trying to remember. I don't even always need to do that if I have a set list already written out. I use a crutch too much of having a set list on the stool on stage that I'll kind of glance at. So I like to keep the order of what I do kind of unprepared normally, except for the special where I had it perfectly memorized and then didn't trust myself, and then had the set list taped to the wall, which you can see for most of the special. I didn't realize it would be in a shot. And I didn't even look at it. I didn't even need to look at it. Maybe I looked at it once, but I just got panicked last second that I wouldn't have it remembered. But I have my memorized, but I normally don't have much of a ritual. I'll just throw down a set list on a stool and a soda water with a lime or a beer, and I'll just glance over occasionally during a laugh and think where I want to take it next and keep it loose like that. But just review my stuff and then get out there. And then when I always record the audio, at least if not video, my sets, and then on the car ride home, I try to listen to it while it's fresh and try to just burn into my brain whatever changes happened on stage, because I write on stage a lot, and so whatever changes seem to pop up, I'll put it into my flow.
See,
no,
that's diligence. That's diligence, though, right there. The listening back would be the hardest part for me, is reviewing back and doing it again. That's really, and that's probably why, like, I'm sure you're like, well, I got a good laugh here, or if I need to pause here, or it could be the littlest things, but that's a lot of work. I have a lot of respect for going back and doing that.
Thanks. And I don't always do it diligently, and I feel bad when I don't, but when I do, I always feel great, and it's just the best way to burn it into your brain. Then often I'll listen to it again on the way to the show. I don't often take notes on the changes because I just trust myself to remember it, and I'm often driving. I'm trying to be efficient with my time, so I just try and remember it. I play it again, usually after a second time playing it. I have pretty good in my brain, just instinctually, because you just kind of fight or flight when you're up there on stage, so your brain just kind of goes to remembering your best shot to get a laugh here, I think, and you kind of get to that change as quick as you can in your brain.
And with that, because I was actually going to follow up with that before. So when you're on stage and you maybe forget what direction you're going in with the joke, and then something else comes to you, do you ever have it where like, wow, I actually thought of it on the fly and it's actually funnier than what I originally had written? Does that happen that often? Oh
yeah, not really because I can't forget, not really because I can't remember where I'm going, but it just happens because I think of something new in the moment, and I'd much rather go with that and try it. Because most shows are not your final show; it's not your special taping or a TV taping, and so I always see, no matter what club I'm playing, even if it's the biggest in the world, I'll always go with a thought that might take it a new way and just gamble, roll the dice and see how it turns out. And more often than not, it pans out.
Cool.
But not always. Sometimes it falls very flat.
I guess it has to for anybody, right? But what's your creative process? Forget about when you're just coming up with stuff on the fly on stage, but what's your creative process when you're home getting ready for stage? As far as putting together jokes, like, do you keep like a notepad with you all day, and as funny things happen around you, jot it down? I mean, a lot of your commentary or your comedy is a lot of political stuff. So is it just, let me watch the news for a little bit and I'll find something funny? Where does your creative process come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty unstructured. It needs to be more structured, probably. Like, I miss writing in notepads. I mostly take my notes down in my phone in one of two apps. Jokes go in one app, but joke comments about comedy go in another app. And it's just much more efficient to be able to search everything you've ever thought of. So writing in a notebook is harder, but once in a while I'll sit down for a full-on writing session, get stoned, and I'll write in a notebook, and I can come up with like the most material then. But then I usually don't end up transcribing it into the app. So what ends up happening oftentimes is I just don't end up always integrating those bits as well, because I don't have them refreshed in my mind when I go through my notes. So I'm really torn about that, because there is something very organic and artistic about writing directly in a notebook that I miss. Maybe I need to get one of those like pads that turn handwriting into a file. But then again, my handwriting is way too messed up, as you saw in the end credits. If you stuck around that long, it kind of showed a glimpse of my notebook, and it's like I wouldn't even care if my notebooks get lost, because it's like hieroglyphics straight up. But yeah, so I just mostly write whenever I think of things, and also I don't even consider my stand-up too political. I mostly consider it like social commentary. It's the social issues that are dividing us. I'm not like talking about like congressional bills or anything, but I don't want it to sound too I don't want it to sound off-putting to anybody. It's just the issues that we're all talking about every day, LGBTQ rights and racism, and tackling those things, and protesting the anthem, and religion, just the things that kind of divide us. I like to comment
unfortunately on. Those things which shouldn't be are now kind of, I mean, it becomes kind of political, right? Because it's been politicized, a lot of that stuff. So I do say that you're right. You don't really get into it's not like you do government
There's a
jokes.
thin line between social and political. It's
I feel like you touch on a lot of social issues that are really, really heavy topics right now in the political world. So having said that, when did you start like segueing into doing a lot of like political satire and just like in like social commentary? Where is it where you kind of started veering towards, because what you do with it is hysterical. I think whether you agree with your views or don't, there's one common thing in there is you have a funny way of expressing it, and you do have a message. So where did you kind of decide where, hey, you know what, this stuff needs to be said, and I want to say it, and I want to bring a funny spin to it? When did that kind of come about for you?
That's a good question. I mean, I started to get a lot more interested in politics and social issues, like when George W. Bush won the first time, and it was unavoidable for me when he won the second time. I just felt like it was a bad direction for the country as I saw it, and I've always loved this country a lot, and so it made me feel very passionate that I needed to talk about it. And as an artist, as a comedian, I just talk about the things that I'm focused on most. So I started talking about that a little bit. But, and then I started doing, like commentary on CNN occasionally. I was on NPR for years with Pat Morrison on her program, Comedy Congress, with Alonzo Bowden and with Aisha Tyler and Greg Proops. And Mark Maron occasionally would join us in there, and Laurie Kilmartin. And that was awesome. And I started my podcast Last Week on Earth, where I cover everything that happens during the last week on Earth. And it covers, news, politics, pop culture, science, trends, entertainment, weird stories. And that's on Kevin Smith's Modcast network, and I get to speak to an audience that normally isn't, at least through Kevin's stuff, fed that much political stuff or that much stuff about the news, where you get a different perspective and get to laugh at it all. And so it's cool that Kevin's hosted me on there for a long time. But up until recently, I did all of that political, and still my stand-up was pretty silly. Like even my first special, I touched on a couple of things, but not that much. And the rest of it is kind of observational and silly and personal stories.
Neurotic Gangster we're talking about?
Neurotic Gangster, yep. You can also get that.
Can I cut you off for 1 second? Let me just cut you off. Neurotic Gangster is my top 5 comedy specials of all time.
I love that.
It is my top 5 of every comedian, every cop. It is right up there with Delirious, Raw. Like it is top 5 comedy stand. I want to be able to tell you that.
Thank you.
I was going to touch on it a little bit later, but when you mentioned it, I said I gotta.
No, that means fantastic. A lot to me, dude. Thank you. I think this hat is a Neurotic Gangster hat. Look at that. Boom.
There you go.
And that's probably Ben's top 5 times getting interrupted. Because when do you get interrupted and get a great compliment? So
that was really solid. That. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, man. Thank you. And so I always still kept my stand-up like really light, and like I would dip into serious topics occasionally. But I also, if you look at my social media, I do a lot of crowd work, and we've started releasing between 3 and 5 crowd work videos every single week on all my socials. And so I always feel the need to do that, but it just kept me like not as disciplined in my stand-up as I should be. And I'm trying to abandon that now, where I'm going to be more decided tonight's crowd work or tonight's material. And then when it is, I'll stick to a memorized order and memorized list, and I'll stick to these topics more. So really only with this special, The Mad King, did I decide to really commit to not even doing crowd work in the special. I'm just going straight on the topics I want to talk about and try to really say something. Because you see a lot of the greats these days, staking their claim on these opinions. I think a lot of times they're kind of ignorant, or they're not real well thought out, or they're just lazy. And and I've got a sharper mind than that. And I wanted to be able to maybe help correct the record and offer a different opinion, a different way to look at some of these things.
It's kind of what I said before, and you're right. I feel like a lot of comedians that try to touch on political or social commentary, they kind of take the easy way out. A lot of them, they'll do like those one-liners where it's like the low-hanging fruit. And that's what I kind of meant before about your comedy. Your brand is it's a little bit smarter of a comedic brand and a comedic style, where it's not the low-hanging fruit. Like you kind of go in, you give a personal piece of yourself, I believe. Like you said before, vulnerable. I think you definitely put a piece of yourself into each of those jokes, and you don't go for the low-hanging fruit. You kind of give an overall aspect of what we're facing as a society, but you put a funny spin on it, and it's not just the easy one-liner. You actually give a good joke. And I think that's the difference between a lot of the other comedians that are trying to do it nowadays. It's like they take the easy way out, the easy joke, or the lazy way out, and I don't think you do. I think you have very well-written jokes to talk about this stuff, which is probably a good reason why you've made it on CNN, the Young Turks, a lot of these shows that do take it serious, is because you do obviously take, even though you do it in a comedic avenue, you put a lot of thought and into the process of explaining your jokes with it.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I try to do. And that's what and I've just also become more political, like you mentioned, because I'm also working with the Young Turks now with TYT, anchoring their shows a lot, and I'm doing my own video series for RebelHQ for them. 3 days a week, I'm dropping my basically takes on the world, rants on the world, and I'm putting a lot of effort and time into these videos and not sleeping at all for them. My deadline is 7 a.m. most days, and most days that's when I'm turning it in. So I'm pulling like crazy all nights trying to get these videos done. But just, we're living during rapidly changing, crazy times, scary times for our country, democracy disappearing rapidly. And so I just kind of feel some responsibility for whatever reason to try to help stop that and try to help, fix things a little bit, get us back on track. And if I can do it while making you laugh, I think it'll stick in your brain better, and it'll be more fun for you and more fun for me. So that's what I try to do.
Cool. So I had to ask you about too is the presidential campaign of 2020.
Yes. Speaking of trying to fix things.
I didn't even realize that until recently. I had noticed it. I didn't even know at the time. But can you? I mean, was it like, a lot of people say they want to run like Kanye was going to run, and obviously had no intention of really running. Were you like you were all about it, weren't you?
I was. Yeah, this was a real campaign. This was no Kanye bullshit. Trying to get attention for himself and sell more sweatshirts and cry about his wife's miscarriage or abortion or whatever it is in front of everybody, and do it with what did he call it? The birthday party he was running under, and it was just a total joke.
Right. I don't remember.
It sounds like a CNL.
All that from my.
It sounds like an SNL skit, right? He was running under the birthday party. I mean, it's an SNL skit. Only it's real life in Kanye's brain.
Totally, yeah. It was not that. It was very serious. Yeah, I wanted to make sure Trump lost. I wasn't sure we'd beat him with traditional politicians. Watching all these like boring, buttoned up politicians try to beat this like wild buck monster that Trump is, like out of the gate, like can't keep him in a pen, breaks every rule possible, trash talker, biggest trash talking candidate of all time. And I was afraid he was going to eat up all these people, and he did eat up most of them. And so I threw my hat in the ring, because I just figured the way you beat a heckler like him is with a comedian. And I knew that I could destroy him verbally. And if I ever got a chance to debate him, I would be able to destroy him. And our campaign went pretty far. I was speaking at events with all the other major candidates.
Yeah, AFL-CIO.
Yeah, the AFL-CIO. I spoke after Biden and Warren and Sanders and Buttigieg and everybody. We got on the ballot in New Hampshire, and Larry King had me on. And I campaigned in 13 states and territories, and we ended up as the 15th highest fundraising active Democratic campaign. And we finished, we were 29th overall out of like 250 campaigns. It was legit, man. It was my little bit of sacrifice for the country. Obviously nowhere near as brave as someone, signing up to be in the armed services. We owe all of our thanks to, but while being afraid of being shot at, this is my effort to help the country, and at the detriment probably of my career, because I spent the better part of that year not advancing my own stuff and got dropped by my agent, and trying to climb my way back ever since that ended. But at least the mission was accomplished of making sure that he lost, and I ended up becoming part of this organization that had a link into the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and I got to advise Biden's campaign on his debate strategy, which was the main reason that I ran. So I ended up in the end getting to, and if you remember, like he came out pretty strong in those last couple debates. Like he was pretty all over the place, and like did not seem all together during the Democratic debates, and would lose his place during speaking and didn't know what he was saying. And then the debates against Trump, he came out strong. And one of the debates, even he was like, "Shut up, man," to the president of the States. And I think that was pretty strong and made Trump look kind of beta. So maybe I had a little bit to do with that, hopefully.
There you go. A lot of other stuff too you got going on. So let's touch on some of the stuff that it seems like you have a million things going on besides the new special, everything else.
And people can go to green2020.com and still read up on all the issues in my campaign forum, watch a bunch of videos if you'd like. After you watch the Mad King on YouTube, that's the priority. New special. Forget the politics. If you're curious, you can go ahead.
So you have homework, everybody. You have homework.
There you go.
Right.
Professor Gleib. So let's talk about the Nowhere. You touched on it a little bit before, Nowhere Comedy Club. I know you started it back when the pandemic hit. Please give us a little insight to how that all came about and why.
Sure. Yeah. Basically, my campaign ended, and just 3 months later, the world shut down. And so now, while everybody had 2 years of not normal life, I had 3 basically, and I had 3 where I wasn't going to be able to be making money in my normal way. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but people need money to live.
What?
Apparently.
So, yeah, what? I know. So I just, out of desperation, needed to figure out a solution where I could tour without touring. And I just closed my eyes for a second, thought about it, and I thought, I bet we can create a virtual comedy club where if we just manage it right and produce it right, the sound levels could be good. If we just produce on top of a video conferencing platform, we could probably do it pretty inexpensively. Could probably make it work, make it feel pretty close to real life. And I called up my boy Steve Hofstetter was really great at executing ideas, and shared it with him, and we noodled around with it for a while, and we launched SDSC, which became this test concept for it, the social distancing social club that we still do once a month. I do it now with Jody Sweeten, Chris Bowers, and Rachel Gallagher. And then about a month into doing that, we launched Nowhere Comedy Club, Steve and I did, and it became the world's first virtual comedy venue, a full-time comedy venue, and it became the best. And we've now had 3 New York Times profiles and Fast Company and Forbes, and done over 650 shows, and brought in through the door millions of dollars for comics that didn't have a way to make money during the pandemic, and from up and coming people all the way through the best in the world, Bill Burr and Sarah Silverman and Todd Barry and Mike Birbiglia and Ida Rodriguez and Shante Wayans and Dumb People Town guys and just James Adomian and all these really wonderful people came and got to do shows. We ended up building a physical studio in my house, and that's where Bill Burr came and performed, and Sarah and Adomian and Jay Moore, and then I created, and so you can go and see a whole night out experience from the comfort of your home. Like, you can have people have date night at our clubs. So if you live in a place where comedy clubs aren't easy to get to, or your favorite acts never come to, or you live in a remote area, or you can't afford a full night out, or if you're disabled or have social anxiety, you don't want to go outside, you can have the experience of a full night out, but you control it. Camera on or off if you want, mic on or off. But if you turn it on, the comic can see you and interact. We've had people that have had lifelong social anxiety, come out of their shell. They're now funny parts of my improv show. And it's been amazing. And then all pandemic created a 2-man Whose Line Is It Anyway, basically, with Greg Proops. We did a show called Greg and Gleib, It's a G Thing, and we would do our own improv games show, all pandemic. And then now I also even occasionally do one with the legend of all comedy legends, John Cleese of Monty Python. He and I and his daughter Camilla Cleese do a show called Cleese Gleib Me Alone, and we have our own
I like it,
improvised insane show together, and it's just been incredible. So we're very, very lucky to have been able to.
That's a stoner comedy name of it.
That is right.
I love that.
Oh yes.
Oh, there's a pup. So how did you?
He just came in all concerned. Are you okay, Bubba? He wants to say something. You want to tell people about Nowhere?
So how did you link up with all the comics for it? Was it easy to reach out and say, hey guys, we're putting this thing together? Was everybody pretty much yeah, I'm in? Was it an easy
a lot
sell?
of people were pretty in. It was a pretty easy sell for most. I mean, some we were never able to convince, and they would have come in just to watch shows or attend and hang out, but pretty easy. Our first biggest bookings came just from my Rolodex. I was just hitting up people on my phones and texting comics and explaining it with super long psycho texts that were copy and pasting 3 paragraphs and explaining what it was, but got them on. And then after a few successes with that, we were able to hire a booker, and we had a full-time booker for most of the pandemic. And now we've got a couple part-time bookers, and we're trying to expand again and looking for people to maybe help us take it to the next level. So if anybody's actually interested in helping run this thing, please hit me up in the DMs on Instagram and let me know what your background is. We might be hiring a little bit, bringing some people onto the team, but and then we just were able to do it and just build it as big as we could and create this community globally that just really helped a lot of people during a really hard time. For a period there, I was getting every day or two an email message saying that we were saving people's lives. We were helping them through it. They don't think they would have made it through without this community they found, without some outlet to connect with people. Because a lot of people out there are alone and pretty lonely, and this community solves that for you. Just Nowhere in general, you go and you're part of a live community, and it's just a lot of the same people coming back over and over again. They're very welcoming. And then at Gleib Off the Top, it's straight up a community. We create this virtual global town called Mad Town. I'm the Mad King of, my fans are the Mad Ones, and you attend and you get to be part of this whole community. It's a Facebook group that continues all week. After the shows, we elect a mayor every other show or so, and they get to run stuff in town from the audience. You can end up being the person that runs the town along with me and give fun games and challenges and prizes to the audience, to the rest of the town. And it's just a way to kind of reinvent what performance can be and make it more two-way. And that's what we do with SDSC too. We make it kind of two-way, and the audience can be part of the show. And it's really fun. It's not what I would want to do with my stand-up, but even though my stand-up often is two-way when I do crowd work too, I involve the people a lot more than is necessary, but I like to do it.
Man.
So let's also talk a little about your voiceover work. Do you like it? I know you Ice Age, Phineas and Ferb, The Book of Life. Is it something you want to do more of? Do you enjoy doing the voiceovers?
I do. I love it. I love it. I got a voiceover booth right here in my house. I've done some of it from here. Certainly, all my auditions these days, since we went virtual, are from here. And so I love it. It's something I never even thought a part of my career I never even pursued intentionally. Never thought I'd become a cartoon, but getting to be in the cartoons is pretty magical.
It's a dream of mine. It's still a dream of mine. I just want to. I want to voice one like good character, just one.
It'll happen. It'll happen. Or it won't. You know what I mean?
Or it won't.
just either way, get over it.
The truest thing Ben said all interview.
Yes.
I know. I know.
No, I mean it's really fun to get to do it, and it's like a very short amount of work, and it pays residual checks beyond what you ever imagined too. It's the only thing I really get residual checks for consistently. Is I'll still get checks in the mail for Ice Age or Book of Life, and they have worked each for 2 hours like a decade ago. It's crazy.
That's what I need. I need to work for 2 hours and get paid for life. That's what I'm working on.
Yes, I mean the payments ain't life changing, but it buys you dinner every now and again.
I was saying it's nice to get that check every once. Just when you think I have nothing in the bank, well, at least you got that check coming. I get that, man.
Yeah, that's been a ton of fun.
So now let's talk a little bit about the podcast. We touched on it briefly.
Sure.
Last week,
and I assume you probably also want to touch on my Disney work if you started as a Disney podcast.
We did, and we actually can get on that in a second. Well, Phineas and Ferb, obviously you were there.
No, Just Beyond. You know about Just Beyond, right?
Yeah, but no, I know. But I was going to get to the Disney at the end, but I want to talk about the podcast first.
Sure.
You threw me off, man. I'm like, where the hell am I?
Sorry, I thought Just Beyond was what you initially asked me on to talk about, wasn't it?
All right. Well, we can. All right.
Show,
it is Ben. Let's go to Just Beyond then. We'll go there first.
Sure.
And then I'll get to the podcast, I guess.
No worries. I mean, whatever order you want. I just want to make sure you didn't forget about it.
No. Let's go. Piano Rob is right. It's your show.
It's your show. You go wherever you want. I'm fine. I just thought you were done with the acting stuff, and you were going to move on, and you were going to forget the original reason you invited me on, back when you were all Disney all the time.
Ben, he invited you because he loves the stand-up so much. He just used that as an excuse to trick you.
Yeah,
that's what he did.
I wanted to invite you before even all that, just because I just love stand-up, man. I love comedy, and I love having great guests, regardless of where they're from. So that's one of the reasons why we actually changed from a Disney show for the last few months to being more of an overall show, because we just love having great guests. Really is really what
copy that.
But having said that, let's get into Just Beyond then.
Sure. I mean, it was an incredible experience. It was my probably biggest acting role thus far, even though it's not that big. But I'm on the poster of the series. That's pretty cool. I got it on the wall over there, a little mini version of it. And it's an anthology series from R.L. Stine, so there's 8 different casts, and I'm one of the leads and one of the cast in one of the cast. In episode 6, we got Spirits. Yes, we do. I play a 1920s film star that dies in a fire and is now haunting this theater with my acting troupe. And it was just an absolute pleasure to get to turn into a ghost, to do something that was like very CGI focused, get to do something that was like major effects, and become translucent, where they could literally see through my character, and get to play this comedy that was at part silly, at parts very heartfelt, at parts scared. It was the biggest acting challenge I've been given in a professional thing, on a top-notch, major project. And our director was Mark Webb, who was incredible. He was the director of Spider-Man, the first 2 Spider-Mans, and 500 Days of Summer, and a lot of amazing things. And getting to work with him was awesome. And it was just a really, really cool experience. And I was running nowhere during that. Like, I remember I was in full ghost makeup, and I had to pop into a sound check for Bill Burr for one of his shows during our lunch break while trying to do that. So I was in character, like, pretty much. I went almost method with the thing. I was in character like a great majority of the time on set, except when I had to go do this Bill Burr sound check. I did break character for a while, but it was really fun.
Now, what is it like to be part of that Disney? You'll be part, you're part of Disney forever now, right? I mean, what's that like to always know that there's a piece of Disney with Ben Gleib and a piece of Ben Gleib with Disney?
It's pretty darn cool. I mean, they're one of the most iconic companies in the world, iconic brands that brought so much joy to a lot of people. I've loved Disney projects a lot of my life. I love going to Disneyland, planning to go this year with my fiance. And I don't know if being, one of the leads on one episode of one Disney show on Disney Plus gets me free passes. I'm assuming it does not. I would like it because going to Disneyland is not cheap.
They're stingy with the passes, I've learned, Ben.
They are stingy with the passes.
They're pretty stingy. You would think that they would just give like 2 free passes to everybody who stars in one of their shows, just as like a really cool bonus that only Disney could do compared to any studio. But no, I have not received those in the mail.
I don't think they're giving those out. I think even The Rock might have to pay for his he's done a bunch of Disney stuff. I think even he has to pay for his passes.
Probably, but luckily he can afford it at least.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he might be one of the only ones left after these price hikes keep going. All right.
Yep.
So let's now talk about the podcast. Obviously, it's on Kevin Smith's podcast network. Recently came back about a month ago. Was it August 13th? I believe it came back.
That's
new season.
Correct. It came back. Yep. And then it took me about a week and a half because I did it on an off day to do the next episode, but then the next episode, and then we're planning to be as regular as we can once a week, summarizing the world. But be patient with us if we ever miss them, because I've got a lot of other projects going. But I do love doing the podcast, and I just love giving people a way to kind of like make sense of all the madness happening everywhere. So I enjoy doing it live. I've never even, except for once, maybe like 5 years ago, I never even had ads on it. I just do it because I love it, and it's a great way to kind of talk to my audience directly. So if you can, subscribe to Last Week on Earth wherever you get them pods. There
you go. And how did it come about? Did you go to Kevin Smith with the idea? How did it get where it's at now?
One of the most organic things that ever happened in my career. One morning I was just in my old apartment, and I wake up late like I do, and I get like a frantic phone call from this producer buddy of mine. He's like, Kevin Smith, you know Kevin Smith? I'm like, of course I know Kevin Smith. He's like, he's hosting his own late night pilot called Tonightly, and Seth Rogen's on it, and Arden Marine is co-hosting it with him, and we need another person on the panel, kind of a co-host, to be there. Last second, someone just dropped out. I can't remember now who dropped out, but someone dropped out. We need somebody. Can you possibly do it? And they paid me nicely, and I went down there, and I go into suddenly a conference room with one of the icon filmmakers of all of human history, Kevin Smith, and he's ranting about some viral video of mine that they showed him that he loved, that got him to greenlight bringing me in. And went in there and just kind of was as funny as I could be during this pilot. And, I was on there with Seth Rogen for 2/3 of it, and making him laugh and making Kevin laugh a ton. And then there was a rap party at the end of it because it was the end of a second day of taping. And Kevin and I missed the rap party because Kevin said, you want to smoke a joint? And just asked me if I wanted to smoke a joint. And so we just, outside of the rap party on the studio lot, just sat there and smoked a joint for like 20-30 minutes, maybe a couple joints. And he asked me to tell him my life story, basically. And I told him the story. Yeah, it was so cool. I told him the story of my career to that point, and how I'd done a lot of things on my own. And he said, so what are you doing just being on like the panel on Chelsea and on my show? When you're a producer like me, you're someone that creates your opportunities. Why don't you do that again? And I was like, I don't know. My mom always said this phrase, sometimes you lead life and sometimes life leads you. And I've been letting life lead me for a long time, but maybe I need to turn that around. He's like, yeah, man, you got to, you have that fire. And he's like, come be on my podcast next week. So he invites me to come be on his podcast. During the podcast commercial break, first commercial break, he says to me, do you want to guest host my podcast here in my home when I'm out of town next week? And I'm like, okay, sure. Just come on into your house when you're gone. No problem. And I guest hosted with my friend, the Smod Coast Morning Show that he used to do. And then at the end of that first podcast appearance, he says to me, do you want your own show on my network? You're fantastic. I'd love to have you have your own show. And at that point, it's only his like close friends and Kelly Carlin and me. And I said yes instantly. And I had a bunch of different premises for one. And I just said one of them could be called Last Week on Earth, where I cover whatever happened during the last week on Earth. And he's like, that title's brilliant. That's the one you got to do. And he just kind of assigned it to me. He like decided for me. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I began doing it 11 years ago.
That's crazy. And to do it that long too is just shows you how much you're into it. And again, it's a lot of social commentary in comedy, politics, pop culture. Fantastic. If anyone hasn't checked it out, please go make sure you guys check it out. And you can find it pretty much everywhere, I believe, right?
Thank you. Yeah, you can. Yeah. And that day with Kevin, has led to so much. Like looking right here at the poster on my wall for Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie that Jay Muse signed up there, and then Kevin signed right here. One of the nicest quotes possible about my performance in this cartoon movie. No bullshit, one of my favorite performances ever, Kevin Smith. And like that performance then led to him telling me that I'd always have a part in his movies, which has generally been true. Not 100%, because he then emailed me that he wrote a part for me in Clerks 3, which was the most exciting email to ever get. And then I then heard through the media that he did a table read and it was too dark and he rewrote it and my part didn't survive. So that was not ideal. But he threw me in. He offered me a bigger role in Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie. I couldn't do it because he offered me the morning of, and I had to be in New Orleans, and I couldn't get on a plane, and I tried. So then he wrote me another part. He wrote me like a tiny little cameo part, and one of the biggest laughs I think in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie is my character towards the end of the climax. I play half Jay, half Silent Bob at the Chronic Con convention, and he got me in there. So Kevin has been amazing. And hopefully I get to work with him a bunch more. That's
awesome. He seems like one of the more like normal, down to earth, regular people in the industry. He doesn't seem like this historical. Someone that's going to go down in history as one of the best writers, producers of this generation. He just seems like he just seems like Kevin Smith from Jersey. You know what I mean? Like
he really is that. I mean, that's why he loves even like podcasting more, because it just keeps him like just relating to normal things. And like when he did my podcast in our first season, I was in his house and I read off all of his credits to him, and he goes, "Wow, hearing it all together like that feels pretty good. I never think about myself like that."
Yeah. Yep. All right, so let's talk a little bit about before we get out of here and get to Lightning Lane. Let's talk about the special. First, like I said, Neurotic Gangster is one of my favorite, hands down, all time. That's why I was super excited when I found out you were doing the Mad King. First question I have about it: you filmed in Philly, but you're a West Coast guy. Why Philly?
I love the East Coast energy, but I also didn't have that much of a choice about it. Helium Comedy Studios was producing a handful of specials, and they've been awesome to work with, and they were recording them at their Helium Club in Philly. And so that's where they had the infrastructure set up, the crew set up. And so I didn't have too much of a choice. I'd never even played the room before the night I recorded my special, and popped in there, promoted it, got some of my fans to fly out for it, and a lot of local fans came out as well. And did it, and just so happy with it.
And you touched on it earlier, how it's a very much a mixed bag of different emotions that you've had with again, social commentary, personal stuff. You talk about going to therapy for the first time. You talk about being diagnosed ADHD. There's a lot of stuff that you touch on your personal level and stuff that's going on in throughout the world, and you do a great job of melding it and mixing it together, so it all makes sense together. It's not like it's a mishmash; it all makes sense. What was it like putting that together, though? Because it's like putting together a puzzle. The way you put vulnerable, personal stuff with what's going on in the world today, and you mix it together, and it's seamless. How hard is that to be able to write something like that?
That was hard. I really wanted it to, in comedy these days, very few comics even care about transitions. They'll literally just start the next topic and it's totally different. I wanted it to have kind of a through line and explain like where I was coming from and why I'm going to the next topic. And it was very challenging. That's why my fiance is a producer on it. Carmela Roney, and you can see her in the credits, is because she really helped me spearhead that and like take it to the next level as far as how I wanted to present it. And so, I just needed to figure out exactly like why this bit fits in at this exact spot, and how can I make sure the audience doesn't feel like there's too much of the more serious topics. So we wanted, after one or two serious topics, to go to something silly and then serious and then personal and then a story, and make sure that the stories were different than the jokes and the bits, and make sure that it had a great mixture of all these different categories. So like we were very elaborate. I'm probably going to post a video of this like 50-minute long video of Carmel and I, like the night before, like working on the order in the hotel room with these color-coded cards. I had these cards here, and we color-coded them based on like, I don't remember exactly what the codes now mean, but like pink is silly and orange is a personal story. So if it was both, I did a half card and split it this way. And then the next topic would be like, this would be yellow. And so I know that that's a joke that's about commentary on the world. And the next one is, something that the religion segment, but it also has a segment in the middle that's a story from my life, and I would mix that and make sure that, and I didn't want the audience to ever get, annoyed or feel lulled into like too long of, I wanted to keep them on their toes the whole show. And one of it just flew away, so that's gone forever now. And
what's that joke?
Exactly, like ADHD therapy and parking lot fight. That was both,
that's a great
personal
that was
story,
a great
but also, and so we just really wanted to make sure the flow was really good. And I auctioned off to some of my fans who, I got to do 2 tapings like most people do for a special, and the second set list was a little different, and I auctioned that one off. But this is for the main show set list. That was what you see on the hanging on the wall. This and the other one, and ended up in this flow that just never kept people, for too long in one type of joke, and just kind of moved all around. And I wanted to make it just, you never knew what was coming next, and I kept hitting people with verbal surprises.
You definitely did, and we won't give any of it away because go watch it. It's awesome. So we won't give away any of the jokes, but
YouTube, it's free. I also wanted to go away to give away for free. I didn't even pitch it this time. The first one, as you know, was on Showtime, and we didn't even pitch Showtime. We didn't even pitch Netflix or any streamers. I wanted it to be where people can share it, people can clip it up and release my bit on religion, release it. I want people to share this thing far and wide. So if you watch it and like it, it's free. Just please share it on your socials, leave a comment on the video, and let people know, because that really helps the algorithm in this world where we're all being controlled, and it's very hard to reach even the audiences that opt in to see your own stuff. The more people share, it kind of breaks through that algorithm a little bit.
Definitely. But and the one thing I want to say though is the bit you had, and we won't go, like I said, we won't give away too many jokes. We want people to see it. But the bit where, well, the part where it was like me, it's like so me and my wife, where you're like, sometimes you make it like going out is just like is sitting on the couch. Like that's where we're all at. And like you argue over who's going to you don't even walk the dog anymore. The dog goes in the backyard and you argue of who's going to answer the door when the dog's time for the dog to come back in. I'm like, well, I'm watching. I'm like,
that's real life.
That's us. Like, right, I feel like we argued about this 10 minutes ago. Like that's us. Yep. So yep. I have a awesome tip for you if your wife.
Please. Yeah, because that's the influence my fiance's had on me. Is I used to be a lot more of a social butterfly, and she's gotten me to be a lot more of a homebody. I don't know how she won that. She's just
I got the same thing here.
It's usually the opposite. Usually it's usually the women that want to go out and make you go out, and but
yeah,
she's made it too comfortable here. I never want to leave now. I think it was a trick.
She's too adorable, and she just takes too good a care of the household and makes it such a lovely place to hang out. And she probably should start slacking in all these categories. She should stop being so adorable and making me want to leave more, So it's on her.
Well, I have a tip for you if you don't want to get up to let the dog in. If she's in another room, you say, baby, come here, I got to ask you a question. And you come up with like a generic question, right? Just a random question, something that seems like maybe being sweet. Like, hey, how was your day today? I didn't speak to you. Whatever it is. And then be like, in mid-sentence, be like, wait, you hear that? And she's going to be like, what do you hear? And you'd be like, is the dog outside? Can you just check? Maybe the dog's outside. Maybe he might want to come in. And then she, not even thinking about it, goes, and I do it to my kids. I do it to everyone in the house.
Solid,
my kids fall for it every time. Just come up with a question. Call her from the other room. Come up with a question.
The thought just hit you is very effective. That is very true.
Wait, is that the dog? Can you just double check? You're right by the door. Just double check real quick, and it works like a charm every time. And I can get away with it because my wife doesn't watch my show. She could care less. So I can tell you and not get caught. So
the only other problem is that, as I was talking about the special, I mean, we're just on the couch together so much that there's rarely a time when she's in another room. I'm not often calling her in to do stuff. It's like we're like Siamese twins, heads attached, probably with some kind of thread. And then the dog scratching the door, and I'm like, God darn it! Like part of our key is like hiding under blankets. A doggy. No, I will not do Doggy Door because he's going to bring in lizards and raccoons, and they're going to figure out how to get in, and he's going to have his paws dirty. I won't be able to look at it. I'm too much of a control freak for that. I wish I could offer it to him, but I cannot. But our big key is just hide under a blanket. Whoever hides under a blanket first, and another person has to go to the door because you can be like, I'm under a blanket. It's hard to get up.
You're like, I always say, I'm in the nook. I'm in the nook. I can't get out.
That's right. By the way, Rob, anybody ever tell you that you look like Amir K a lot?
I look like who?
Amir K, a great comic. He was on Mad TV Cast. You look like him, and your vibe is kind of similar too.
Oh, yeah, you're the first person to tell me that. I know who you're talking about. That's amazing. That's funny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and watch skits after this and see.
You should. You should.
I usually get the Muppet thing. I remind people of Muppets. That's what I get. But...
Oh, I can see a little Fozzie Bear action.
Little Fozzie Bear. All right. Well, listen. Let's get into some lightning lane.
Let's do it.
You ready to play lightning lane?
I was born ready.
All right, Patty, roll the clip. Lightning lane, baby. You ready?
That was effective. I felt like I was in a car.
I hope you had your seatbelt on. Your hat probably almost flew back. You got to be careful. All right.
That's the Flowbee car. That's the Ford Flowbee.
That's right. Ford Flowbee. Favorite late night snack?
I take these questions way too seriously, but ice cream or Starburst or mango, dried mango, but not too dried where it's still juicy mango chunks from Costco.
I like that too.
All right.
Wait,
wait, real quick. If it is ice cream, what flavor ice cream?
Mint and chip or ideally banana.
Okay. All right. Who's your favorite musician or band of all time?
The Beatles, number 1. Sublime, number 2.
I had a feeling you were going to pick. I don't know why, but I'm like, you're going one way, psychedelic or the other. It's gonna. I'm like Beatles, Sublime. That sounds about right. I like that.
Yes.
There you go.
Love them both.
Last show that you binge watched?
Better Call Saul. I mean, I'm still binge watching it, but we've been binging that lately.
That's a good one.
Cool.
Real good.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
In the hearts of the children across the land. Probably Amsterdam.
Nice.
All
All
right. I
right.
love that town. It's just the best city in the world. It's Disneyland for adults.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes.
Yeah. What is your biggest pet peeve?
I don't like when people misspell my last name. They flip the I and the E. Happens a lot. It's pretty frustrating.
What is I after E except after C?
Unless it's before B.
That applies to words, not names.
I'll tell you what. I can only imagine because when I was getting you the link for the show before, he goes, "Did you spell my name right?" Just make sure you spell.
Yep.
I'm like, wait, did I?
Is there
No, I
any
know I did.
English? Is there any English teachers named Mr. Gleib anywhere? That's gotta be somewhere.
I don't know. It's a good question.
That would be funny. That's a bit right there. I gotta write that down.
I would say that's a pretty good one for me.
All right.
All right. What's your favorite movie of all time? Like that one you'd leave on a little longer?
Meet Joe Black.
Oh yeah, man.
Wait, is that
Love
the
it.
Brad Pitt vehicle?
Yeah, Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins, Claire Forlani, Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah.
So good.
Nobody's picked
so
that one. That's a solid choice for that question. Yeah.
It's really good. I can even give you my top 5 movies too. There might be 6 in it, but then it's When Harry Met Sally,
I love it.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Pulp Fiction,
Mhm.
being John Malkovich,
Mhm.
and Midnight Run and Fletch.
Midnight
Okay.
Run. I love it. It's such an underrated, maybe the most underrated De Niro flick of all. And
Yeah.
Harry Met Sally, I legit, no joke, not making this up. I watched it last night to go to sleep.
Nice.
I actually put it on.
It's a perfect script. It's just perfect performances, perfect script. It's just every line is hilarious and heartfelt and real, and it's just so good.
It was like Cool Billy Crystal, man. Yeah, I
They're
love
all
the movie.
classics in their own sense. That's what I like about all those choices.
Oh yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
All
If
right.
you could have any animal in the world as a pet, what would you want?
I would want maybe a sloth just hanging out in the backyard because I played a sloth and I got to hang with one in real life, and I find them to be quite adorable. But I don't know if that would be the choice. I think the choice would probably be a horse because it's incredible that it's an animal that you can literally ride, and they seem to enjoy it. And you can like go to the store, and a horse is incredible. Like what pet could take you places? Or a giraffe, and I'd probably ride the giraffe as well. And I don't know why people don't ride giraffes. They seem like they've got the same lower torso as a
Yeah.
horse. Just they got the great.
I think
long
it's
neck.
the
I probably-
angle. I think it's the angle.
Just,
Well, you can
just
sit
make
around
sure.
the very end of it. You sit on the very bottom of the neck, right on the torso part. And I would just probably have like a huge like cargo type of container velcroed around the neck with like all kinds of stuff. You could have like hair dryers and candies and snacks and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you could even like yeah, it's true. You could even automate it and have it like come down, like one side comes down with a conveyor belt.
Like a conveyor belt? Yeah.
You could have all your
like
stuff.
A dumbwaiter. Like a dumbwaiter, but on the strap.
Right. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I get it, man. It's
So
practical. If anything. At minimum, it's practical at least, right?
Exactly right. Thank you.
We got to work this out. All right. I might know this, but what do you do when you can't fall asleep?
I just stay up. Writing, working, watching shows. Why? What is it you thought it was?
I figured you were going to say you were going to smoke a J and go back to sleep.
Oh, no, I do not. When I smoke, I can't sleep. Weed activates my brain so aggressively that I typically cannot fall asleep if I smoke. I've been experimenting finally with sativas a little bit. I mean, with indicas a little bit of my life, and I am able maybe a little bit to pass out. But generally, I'll be up for a million hours after I smoke.
There you go. Wow, there you go.
Favorite subject in high school?
I mean, is there a pass option on this question?
Pass or fail, right? It's high school. It's
my favorite class was ditch.
Yeah, maybe Spanish class, because I still speak Spanish, and I guess it taught me some skills there.
There you go.
There you go. What was your favorite vacation ever?
Had some good ones. Recently, with my fiance getting engaged in Paris and going to Amsterdam, was pretty amazing this year. I had a pretty awesome trip to Israel a few years ago with this storytellers group called Reality Israel, the Schusterman Foundation, with like 50 storytellers, and going through and learning the history on all sides of that very complex place, but just had an incredible time along the way. It was a pretty darn great trip. First time in Cabo with my lady was pretty darn great. I've had some great times in Hawaii. Pretty fun trip in China. I got to do stand-up in China. That was pretty cool. Some of those are some of my answers there. This is the lightning lane, so I'm only going to give you my top 7 answers.
There you go.
It's like favorite movie, here's 6. Favorite vacation, here's 9. I
gotta say, he listed more there than some people have been on in a lifetime. So God bless you.
But I'm glad it's your show, and that's the whole point. Like,
it's your show.
The amount, I know, but today it's your show. But the amount of stuff that you've accomplished, the different things you've done, your whole life has so much variety, and I appreciate that as a creative person. Like, it's why do you have to just do one thing or do the same thing? Like, life's meant to be experienced, and that's what you seem to be doing. How great is that?
I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you, man, because that's something that I sometimes get down on myself about, because I don't choose a lane as much as I should. I know I'd be farther along in my comedy career and more of a household name if I picked a lane, but I love doing so many different things. It makes life fun for me, and so I don't tend to do it. Yeah, it is for sure. I also just noticed that your logo has a moon behind it, and if you'll know when you watch my special, I get very mad at the moon.
Yes. Well, yeah, you don't. I get it. You don't really quite get the whole hubbub about different moons. I agree.
Really,
can I tell you something?
Moons
They're always like, "Oh, it's a blood moon." I'm like, who gives it? I don't care why it's a different shade of.
It doesn't look different. I'm looking up, and it looks like the same moon, and it's all a PR blitz to keep us not focusing on what matters in this world. And a lot of comics won't take on the moon, but I'll do it. I'm not afraid of big moon. I will stand up to the moon lobby. I will moon the moon lobby. That's my move.
We congratulate you and appreciate you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Of course.
I do have a bonus question. Best advice you've ever received, and who gave it to you?
My God. I one time got the advice from my great-great-grandmother, and she said, if you ever get asked to do the Late Nite Magic podcast, you say yes. And it is paying off in dividends.
Tell her the check is in the mail. I'm glad she said it, because I asked her to, and I wasn't sure if she was going to do it, but there you go.
Probably bite off more than you can chew, and then chew like hell. Like,
I love it.
I do a lot, but if you work diligently and hard, you can get stuff done. You know, you can really get stuff done. Just you got to work hard. People don't work hard enough these days, and then they wonder why they don't have the outcomes that they hope that they have. Well, success isn't easy, so you got to really grind. Always be climbing.
I agree. Even Kim Kardashian said something like that recently, and who would know better about hard work than Kim Kardashian, right?
I think that was.
So-
I think that was the Jaws tagline, right?
It might have been. Hey, I got one extra bonus question. I got to ask you.
You can't ask two bonus questions.
I guess this is a special bonus question because it was one of my favorite things I've ever seen you do. Are you and Charlie Kirk real life best friends behind the scenes?
We are not. We are
can I please get you two to move into an apartment together and make that a reality show? Is there any way we can make that happen?
God, that would be wild. That would be wild.
So,
the Patriot and the traitor living in one apartment. That total poison on our system. Oh God, debating that guy was something I prepared very strongly for, and was very happy that I destroyed him very hardcore in that debate. Owned him, and that hopefully that dolphin fetus clip will never leave him.
It went viral, man, for a good reason too. There's nothing. It's got to be nothing better than going on somebody else's home turf and owning them, right? I mean, it's about as good.
Best. I got the guy to storm out of his own studio. It was pretty damn great. I ended up being the solo host of Charlie Kirk debate night, so that was pretty great.
You're like, Charlie, should I just turn the lights off when I leave? I mean, what do you want?
Yeah, I should have started booking my own guests. The best part of that too was I negotiated before I agreed to do it with them. I negotiated that they would fly me out and cover my meals when I was there and give me a car service. So when his security escorted us out of the building, I still had a car service the rest of the night, and I had them take me and my fiance to a fancy sushi restaurant and got a $270 sushi dinner on Charlie Kirk after I owned him in his own studio. So
nice.
That's a
day.
That is absolutely the definition of insult, of adding insult to injury. There you go.
That's a hashtag winning moment, I guess. You just got to. That's where they use that, right?
I think so.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
Good piece of advice. If you ever get asked to do a debate on hostile turf, negotiate the sushi.
There you go. There you go. Ben, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you so much.
The mods are going to put all the links in the chat for us. The Med King special, the podcast,
YouTube specials on YouTube. Go search Gleib special. It'll pop right up. Please watch and share it.
There you go. We're gonna have the exact link right there for it.
Great.
The podcast, for the Nowhere Comedy Club. We're gonna have all those links there, so the mods will know what to do. We'll have for the IG, everything else. But my man, thank you so much for joining us this evening, man. It's been a pleasure, and good luck to you, and keep up the great work. Big fan.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the kind words and for having me on. I'm glad we got it scheduled and got it done. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah, thank you. Guys, we're gonna take a short commercial break. When we come back, me and Piano Rob will wrap it up. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
In the morning, rising to the street.
Yeah.
Light me up that cigarette. Now straps.
Winnie the Cute. Rawr, Jurassic Cute. You're not trash. You're cute. This is Sammy. Sammy loves Disney ears. She loves ears so much, she makes her own. Yeah, 3D ears. Want to see her do it? Let's check it out. Here she's making bows. Here she also makes ears. And sometimes she makes ears with bows. Any kind you want. People have been seeing her with her ears and they're saying, hey, can I get me some ears? Pow, yeah, you can. Here you go. Now Sammy's making ears for any occasions. Ears for dogs. Ears for spooky stuff. You name it. Ears for any occasion. And it's all happening at JSA Creations. JSA Creations. Just ask for Sammy.
What a treat. What a great guy, man.
What a great guy. Like that's the first thing. It's what a great guy. But
super funny. And guys, I'm telling you right now, go check out the comedy specials. You will not be disappointed. Meg King is great. And again, if you want to go back to into the archives, go find The Neurotic Gangster as a Showtime special. I'm sure it's probably still on Showtime On Demand or whatever the Showtime link app is called. Amongst, I'm sure you can find it in a million other places, but I'm telling you right now, like that was where I was fully first introduced to Ben Gleib and was like, this dude is one of the funniest guys on the planet. So make sure you go check out Neurotic Gangster, and then make sure you go watch the new one, The Mad King.
And can I tell you something I like about our show? I like getting a guy like Ben that maybe we get to introduce to somebody that hasn't seen him. And now once we do, they have all this great stuff they can watch. Like once they find out they like him, they can see him in so many different types of things. And that's great. I hope we do that for a ton of people.
I as well, and you know, and you can even find a bunch of the stuff over on Disney Plus, right?
Yeah,
Just
man.
Beyond, Phineas and Ferb, Ice Age, I believe, is on Disney Plus. So there's that,
Disney,
and also
Disney
the
has
podcast.
Ice Age now. I keep forgetting
There
that.
you
Like
go.
they have
It's
that.
the Fox, right? And the podcast, man. There you go. And you know what? One of the things too is let's also call it like it is. One of the best things that he's done, and I'm sure he would agree with it, is build Nowhere Comedy Club for comedians that needed the work and needed the outlet during the pandemic. And now it's gone on. It's still in production. It's actually worked that well. Not only did they use it for that, but they've actually made it a thing, and it's still in production. You can still go watch stand up.
How cool is that? Because I didn't want to bring it up during the show because it was so good. But like I was able to build a little community over the pandemic. The same thing, nowhere to that level. But how great it was! People can come together and build these little communities. Like it was about people that have the joy for the same thing. They can experience it together, and then they bring
100%.
lifelong friendships and stuff out of it. Like it goes miles beyond the comedy, and that's what's amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a 2 or maybe 3 or maybe even a 4-fold thing. It was the comedians helping them get on stage when the clubs were shut down. It was also giving audience the ability to see shows.
Everybody
when
wins.
Everything was shut down. So everybody wins on it. And just want to commend him on doing such a great job of putting that together for a lot of people who needed it at the time, and it's still going. So you can still partake and enjoy it. But you know what? Let's get into our thank yous. What are we gonna play on the way out today? Give me a little something. What do we got? Do we have any? Do you have any Michael Jackson?
We got, of course, we got some Michael Jackson.
And this is the singer, not the old receiver for the Cleveland Browns. I'm assuming Michael Jackson. There was a Michael Jackson played receiver.
Somebody's doing fantasy football drafts.
Yeah, I'm getting prepared. Guys, we want to say thank you to Patty Puddles for being our producer today, doing a great job. Thank you to the mods, keeping the chat fun, friendly, safe. Thank you to the chat for coming in and hanging out with us. Guys, make sure you go check those links the mods dropped in here. Tremendous stuff. Let's also thank our subscribers. Guys, we've grown so much in the past recent months. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thanks for giving us the ability to do what we do. And let's also thank the funny, the hysterical Ben Gleib. Guys, all those links are going to be at the bottom. Make sure you go check it all out. And let's also, guys, remember too, go check out Piano Rob on Facebook. If you want to know where to find him, where he's going to perform when you come to town, there you go. Or when he's going to go live, because he does a lot of live shows over there on Facebook. And now you can go watch him there, and you can request a song the same way I just requested some Michael Jackson. So make sure you guys go do that. This is where you can go find it out. Go check the Facebook out. Also, make sure you take in tune with the reels and the TikToks. Rob, my man, thank you so much today, man. Great, we had a fun time today. I thought
we did, and now I have Michael Jackson in my brain, so I'm really happy.
There you go. There you go.
Grooving the rest of the day.
So there we go. Guys, have a great today. Oh wait, I am FitzMagic, and this is Piano Rob. Have a great today, a better tomorrow, and we will see you next time, guys.
It's the thriller night.